What's up, guys? Today we're going to be going over the Darci plus the Praedyth's Revenge. Darci got a huge rework this season with its catalyst that will increase its and legendary sniper damage, which is very interesting, and in this video we'll be breaking down exactly how that works and showing off why Praedyth's Revenge might be the surprise meta pick for DPS right now. So look at the reworked catalyst for Darci. While Personal Assistant is active, hits grant this weapon and nearby allies non-exotic sniper rifles increased overall weapon performance and precision damage, granting maximum stacks of effect to an ally grants this weapon bonus damage. So that's a lot of words, and it honestly doesn't describe what it does very well at all. This will be a precision damage modifier, but for the percents, I'm just going to do the total increase. So when you do damage with Personal Assistant, you'll get a buff called Network Targeting that goes up to ×5, and this will increase the damage of the Darci itself, along with all other legendary snipers in the game for you and allies. And as you saw, the Darci caps out at ×3, ×3, 4, and 5 are all the same numbers, but for the legendary snipers, it will go up each stack from 1 to 5. So look at those numbers. With the Darci, it's 3.5, 6.5, then 10% with 3, 4, and 5. Then with legendary snipers, it's 2.8, 6.1, 9.1, 12.5, then finally 16% with ×5. And it doesn't matter if you give yourself the buff or your teammate gives you the buff, it goes up to ×5 and will never go higher than that, no matter how many people are using Darci, and you'll have the same numbers with the Darci and legendary snipers. But the thing is, when you give an ally ×5, you will also get another buff for the Darci, which will be a 15% buff. So in total for the Darci, you get 10 from the perk, then you get 15% from giving the perk to someone else, for a total of 26% total damage increase. So there's a lot going on there. The main takeaway is Darci is 26% and legendary snipers will be 16. The Darci also applies Jolt to targets. Jolt is like ignitions, where it's going to be team wide and not unique to you. So I'm not going to add those numbers to the DPS. If you're playing solo, it'd be like a 5%-ish increase to the DPS of the Darci. So looking at damage on a boss, doing all the math, all the different buffs, and looking at the rate of fire 1 and 2 max, to be pretty quick at 140 RPM, 6.8 seconds. So a DPS of 1 and 2 with the full buff is 190,000, which is very high. Then over 2 drops off to 140, and as you shoot more and more and have to reload more and more times, that'll drop off very quickly. This weapon holds 41 with max reserves for a total damage output of 2.8 million. Not bad, but not as great as some of our options we'll see in this video. So now moving on to the Praedyth's Revenge. This is now craftable from Vogue this season and has some pretty interesting new rules. So look at the perks on this weapon. In the left, we're going to have 4 times the charm, which is going to be the main one to use. Then we're also going to have kinetic trimmers. Then another option would be Envious Arsenal or swap combos, but 4 times the charm will just nearly always be better, so I wouldn't recommend that. But I think for a few players in the like precise situations, that could be a useful perk. Then the right, we're gonna have 2 great damage perks, the first being the classic bait and switch, then the new one, elemental honing. So looking at the new perk, doing unique elemental damage grants this weapon a stacking damage bonus. This bonus is increased for kinetic weapons. So the way this perk works is when you do elemental damage, you'll get the perk for 20 seconds. With enhanced, it goes up to 23. And every time you do damage with another unique, different element, it'll go to a higher stack, so 1, then 2, all the way up to 5, and refresh the timer. And once you're at ×5, there is no way to refresh the timer until it drops off and reprocking it. But with it lasting for 20 up to 23 seconds, that is quite a long time. And we look at the damage increases of ×1 all the way through ×5. These numbers are going to be different for elemental versus kinetic weapons. Kinetics are going to be higher because the kinetic weapon itself does not help proc the perk. So it's going to be harder to reach ×5 with a kinetic weapon compared to elemental. So obviously this perk is going to work great on prismatic, where between your 3 weapons and your super, melee, and grenade, you have the ability to have up to 6 different options, and make sure that you cover all 5 different unique elements between those 6 different options. And with a kinetic, you need all the other 5 sources to be unique and different. So definitely a perk that will work the best on prismatic. But as you'll see, even off prismatic with kinetics, it is going to be pretty equivalent to bait and switch. So look at the numbers for each stack 1 through 5. With kinetics, it's going to be 10, 20, 30, 35, and then 40. And with elemental weapons, it's uncapped out at 35%. And notably, 4 stacks is also 30%. So comparing that to bait and switch, where you have to do damage with all 3 of your equipped weapons, that'll be a 30% buff. As we saw with the kinetics, once you're at times 3 with elemental honing, you're already at 30%, and it's to be double the length at 20 seconds compared to 10. Then times 4 and 5 is just straight up more damage. Then the same with elemental weapons. Once you're at 4 stacks, you're already equal to bait and switch, and 5 will just be higher at 35 and last double the length. So in a lot of situations, elemental honing is just a straight up better than bait and switch. At 3 stacks with kinetics and at 4 stacks with elemental, it's already even. Then any stack higher than that is going to be even more damage, and once again lasting at least double the length with enhanced 23 seconds. And on Prismatic, there's going to be all kinds of ways to reach times 5. You could use Darci, you can use like a solar weapon. Then on Warlock, for example, Needle Storm, then the Stasis Melee, Void Grenade. Obviously, there's just so many different combinations you can do to reach times 5. Then the origin trait on the Vogue weapons, Time Lost Magazine. The second part where when your super expires, this weapon's magazine size is doubled for a long duration and reloads from reserves. So what that means is when you use your super, it will double the mag. So the Praedyth's Revenge is 7, it'll go up to 14, and the game will treat it as a 14 mag, where if I shoot once and reload, I can. Usually with other overflowing perks, you have to shoot below the base mag to be able to reload. Now it just treats the mag like it's a 14 mag. And once the timer runs out, which is 20 seconds, it will obviously go back to treating it like a 7 mag weapon. And that is going to be very interesting on this weapon, because in the left we have 4 times the charm, where every 4 precision hits will refund 2 to the magazine from thin air. And I don't have a great clip. I was using it on the second boss during contest mode in the dungeon, and it's kind of silly how long and how many shots you can shoot with this. Doing the math from the base mag of 7, which doubles to 14, if you don't miss a single shot by taking advantage of something like Div, you will proc the perk 6 times, which means 12 free bullets from thin air, meaning a total of 26 shots in a row without reloading. The other perk on the left is going to be Connect Tremors, where every 3rd hit with the weapon will do the kinetic explosion, adding roughly 14.8 thousand per shot on average with this weapon. So once again, showing off the damage on a boss, doing all the different math, looking at the rate of fire. With 4 times of charm, you're going to be able to shoot off 26 in a row. So most often, you're never going to have to reload, or if you do, the reload will be such a low impact on your total DPS. Also doing 2 mag just for the Connect Tremor damage. And looking at the total reserves, it's going to be 41 just like the Darci. Both are 140s. Looking at all the numbers, all the math, Praedyth with 4 time and elemental honing is almost 120 DPS and 3.7 million total damage. With the Darci buff, those numbers will go up to 140 and 4.3, which is very high. Then with Connect Tremors and elemental honing, the 1 mag is 156, 2 mag drops off to 135, and the total damage is a lot lower at 2.6 because you're not getting the free ammo. And then Connect Tremors plus the Darci buff, the 1 mag DPS is 181,000, drops off to almost 160, and the total damage is 3 million. So those numbers are just absolutely wild for a legendary special weapon. A peak of 181,000 DPS is absolutely insane. Then a total damage with 4 times the charm of 4.3 million is just crazy for a special weapon. Just to put it in a ballpark, I've already made a few videos with the Queenbreaker, but looking at the Whisper also, on the boss is going to hit for 89,000. And looking at the rate of fire of the 6 shots, this also has triple tap. Look at the total ammo of 33, doing all the math. The Whisper's DPS is 130, way lower than that of the Praedyth's, but the total damage is pretty equivalent to 4 times the charm at 4.3 million. And throwing up the Queenbreaker with particle numbers that we showed off already in previous videos, the DPS is 160 and the total is 5 million. So overall, just comparing the numbers, the Praedyth's Revenge is on par if not better, in most categories of DPS, sustained DPS, and total damage of exotic heavies. It is absolutely crazy just how strong this sniper is because of elemental honing being 40% and all of the free ammo you get from 4 times a charm with this weapon. And given the fact that the Whisper numbers and the Praedyth's Revenge numbers are better than the D.A.R.C., the D.A.R.C. isn't bad by any means, but it's definitely a situation like the G-Horn, where if you're in a raid-like activity, you probably only want one person using D.A.R.C. and everyone else using the Praedyth's Revenge. And yeah, definitely farm out the Praedyth's Revenge if you have time before Vogue leaves, or by the time Vogue comes back. I should have a review up on most of the interesting weapons from Vogue. So when it comes back, you'll know what to farm and what rolls you want. Or the Praedyths, the roll I've already crafted is 4 times the charm and elemental honing. I think I'm going to eventually make a second one with connect trimmers, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use bait and switch or elemental honing. I might just do bait and switch for the off chance I'm not playing prismatic. On Warlock, a lot of times I'm using solar, and with that, you might be able to get to ×3 with elemental honing. So it's pretty close. I'm not sure which perk I'll use, but I'm definitely going to craft a Connect Trimmer one also. Anyways, I think that's be it for the video. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.